Yo, what's up? What's going on, everybody? That's right. We are here. This is Sunday, March 30th, 2025, and this is the latest edition of the Boxing Source podcast. Big thanks for everyone that'll be able to listen live here to the podcast or also the replay that'll be available later on down the line. I mean, we're just, getting adjusted here. It's been a very busy week, of course, here through the Boxing Source. Multiple interviews over the past few days from Wednesday to Friday to today. He had a number of interviews, had another big show here from the Boxing Source, of course, with the pilot show of the DMV Boxing Network show that was on Friday. Of course, promoting the April 12th card that's coming up at Maryland Live Casino in Hanover, Maryland. So we're gonna, be talking about multiple things leading into that here over the course of the next few days. But here for this particular edition, we're going to talk about the action that happened on Saturday night, of course, with the rematches that took place. One over in Mexico, one over in Las Vegas there. So we're going to get through that. Yeah, big ups to everyone. Listen, live once again. I got my brother Joe here that should be in the building. Happy Sunday to you. Like I said, I mean, we had a lot of action there on Saturday. Trying to see if I pretty much gonna handle this solo, I guess, because at least I would kind of like say that one of the panelists, regular panelists here, been pretty much preoccupied with basketball over the past couple of weeks, right? So you do. So I think he's gonna kind of like have a little bit of a backseat, to speak, when it comes to this action that took place. I know that there was like some action here actually today, earlier today too. You had like Melvin Jerusalem versus Uday Sigioka there for a world title there, WBC title that was all the way there at the minimum weight that happened as well. So yeah, definitely a lot of action here, but wanted to get into what happened first with William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer because you had that bout between those two fighters there in the rematch. It was in Cancun this time around. Here, of course, everyone knows about the first bout where you had William Zepeda be knocked down in the fourth round. But even with that knockdown, it wasn't enough for Tevin Farmer to get that decision back in November over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And even with that, I guess it was enough of a push or whatever it was for this to, be a rematch. So you had Zepeda putting his undefeated record on the line at the time. They're at 32-0, right? Going up against Tevin Farmer, who had a record of 33 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw. There, of course, he had that's Farmer, that is, had the bout there against William, not just William Zepeda there, but also Raymond Murataya. That was earlier last year, where Murataya ended up getting a unanimous decision. So this was like 2 decision losses that Tevin Farmer basically had there from 2024, and now going into 2025 here with this bout against William Zepeda. So it was more about seeing if he could get the better of Zepeda here in this bout. And well, I mean, he definitely had his moments there over the course of the bout, but the activity of Zepeda, man, it was crazy. I was gonna see if I could pull up the stats though, as far as like the punch stats, because you had in the second round William Zepeda like throwing over 100. It wasn't even just like over 100 punches. It was basically like 124 punches that were thrown there, according to CompuBox, there for Zepeda in round 2. So it was like that overall activity there for William Zepeda that kind of like stood out here over the course of this bout. You had a couple of moments there where he still got caught with some good shots by Tevin Farmer, but at least this time around there wasn't any knockdowns in a sense with that. But that's something there though too, that he was able to get this win by majority decision this time around, not split decision, but a majority decision this time around, and this was for the WBC interim lightweight title. It looks like it was on record. It'd be the WBC interim title there, right? Well, I find it kind of funny though because I mean I don't know who had posted this, on boxing scene, man. I have to share it. Let me see if I could go ahead and share it, because this is where you'll have the thing for the CompuBox statistics here if you're watching live on YouTube. But I mean, you pretty much like see there where it has the CompuBox thing there for William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer, right? But the thing is right here, right? It says William Zepeda solidified his position as the mandatory challenger for IBF lightweight champion Shakur Stevenson. I'm sorry, y'all. Come on, man. Come on. IBF champion. IBF champion Shakur Stevenson. He's the we all know he's the WBC, okay, lightweight champion. Okay. We know that he is the WBC lightweight champion. But come on, boxing scene. What are we doing? What are we doing, boxing scene? Why are we doing this where we're having these these typos, these errors, or whatever it is, and whatnot? Like who's part of the editing team for boxing scene? Like this this is a follow up to when they had the post that was on X that we talked about the other time, right? Where they had it for Tiara Brown. They had posted about Tiara Brown winning the title, right? But the picture was O'Shea Jones. Come on, y'all. It was O'Shea Jones. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing, boxing scene? You can't be making mistakes like this, man. Like, come on. So first you had that about like posting O'Shea Jones like it's Tiara Brown, and now y'all are saying that the IBF lightweight champion is Shakur Stevenson. We know that the IBF champion, at least for now, is Vasily Lomachenko. Okay, so yeah, we gotta fix all that. All right, but still, with that CompuBox statistics there, they show that William Zepeda over the course of those 12 rounds landed 344 punches, while in comparison, Tevin Farmer landed 152 punches according to CompuBox, and looked like William Zepeda had thrown almost 300 more punches over the course of the bout. So it was much more active hands there from Zepeda here in this particular instance against Tevin Farmer. I did mention that second round where it's listed that he threw 124 punches there in round two, but also it listed there at round 5 that he threw 118 punches, landing 52. So it had him around a clip of 44.1% there for round 5. So it was really something there for him to get through that thing, man. Shout out to Trill Clinton on the live chat. He said, "Lucky it wasn't February. I would have really been mad." Oh man. Oh geez, yeah, man. There would have been something there if they would have done that to Tevin Farmer there on Black History Month, man. Come on, yo. But now, like I said there, with William Zepeda getting the win, he's still undefeated. We're still there at the top of the WBC rankings, and I mean, come on, y'all. Like, I've said this here, multiple times, but now it's really got to be emphasized. William Zepeda got to face Shakur Stevenson now. Like, you can't be delaying it and none of that stuff. Saying that, hey, all right, you're gonna have another one-off or whatever it is. If you want to go ahead and have a world title shot, this is a time for you to have that world title shot, William Zepeda. They're going up against Shakur Stevenson. Yes, I know about the comments that were made about with Shakur Stevenson as far as like him waiting for a particular bout, but I'm like saying, you know what? Have the WBC, like give the WBC a call, Mauricio Suleiman or something like that, and say, hey, all right, now let's go ahead and have that, WBC mandatory be enforced there in that particular case. Let's see how that goes in comparison to David Benavidez and Dimitri Bivol. Maybe it'll be different in that sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, we got to see, how this turns out here for William Zepeda. At least it was a better performance this time around than the last time over in Saudi Arabia for William Zepeda. But again with Tevin Farmer, he definitely gave himself a good showing there in this particular bout. But for the third consecutive time, he falls short by decision there, and 43 bouts under his record now with a record of 33 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw. There, at 34 years old there, in the lightweight game. It's going to be something to see like what could happen from here for Tevin Farmer at this point. He kind of, made comments about the, decisions and things like that about what happens in the sport sometimes. And, here, he could have had this opportunity to, be right there to have a shot at a world title if he was able to get a decision win here. But didn't necessarily happen in this case. But as I said, I felt like he took that first fight, and those judges like kind of like snatched it away from him on that sense. But here this time around, it was more about the activity there of William Zepeda that was the main difference here in this particular bout there. So like I said, with Zepeda, now the WBC interim champion. Dang man, WBC be getting money, man. They be getting money. All these interim belts and world title belts and I don't know, champion of Reese's belt. Man, they be getting that money, man. That's pretty much like I said about that. They be getting that money. So that's my thing about it. Like, is it now the time for William Zepeda to go ahead and have that WBC mandatory enforced? I say it should be enforced. Like, what else are you gonna do from here? If you're William Zepeda, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna have like another fight with another contender and risk, having a loss? Like I wouldn't. Well, if I was like an advisor of sorts, I wouldn't advise for that. That's something I wouldn't advise for. But in this particular instance, like you gotta be able to just go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity to be the guy that should be next in line to face Shakur Stevenson. Who else is gonna fight? Andy Cruz? You already facing Tevin Farmer, who was at the time ranked number 2 there within the WBC rankings. So who else are you gonna step in the ring against here at this particular point? Nah, the only way that you could just go is up, and that's the way to go up. It is to face Shakur Stevenson at this point. Like I said with Tevin Farmer, I'm not sure like what else he could do here. Maybe he could continue to, contend for a title. I don't know who it would be against there in the lightweight division, but we'll have to see how that goes. I might consider opening up the phone lines, the hotline or something like that here for those that want to call in and have reaction to what's went down here this weekend, right? But that'll be I'll think about it here around like 8:30 p.m. Eastern time if I'm going to go ahead and do that. But I wanted to continue on what was happening at least there in Mexico, right? Cancun, Mexico. You had Oscar Collazo that won by knockout over Edwin Cano Hernandez there, within 5 rounds to defend his titles there. So Oscar Collazo, was really like up there as far as like one of the top fighters there in that particular division, the minimum weight division, right? Because you have him as a WBO and WBA champion. I did mention the thing there with Melvin Jerusalem, right? He had his bout against Yude Shizuoka, where he won by unanimous decision. there, and he's the WBC champion, right? So you have Oscar Collazo, unified champion, Melvin Jerusalem. There's the WBC champion. So you had two world title bouts within, couple, 2 days, those 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, right? So maybe you have another unification there at 105 pounds. Yep, that's right, 105 pounds there. But Collazo, yeah, he's definitely been doing his thing at least for the past I would say the past couple fights or whatnot. With him getting these knockout wins, that he's been having here recently, right? Because he beat up Neon Strong there, who was undefeated at the time, and then now having this bout here against Edwin Cano Hernandez, getting another knockout win. So yeah, he's shown to be pretty much like the top guy there in that minimum weight division. So that was another bout that was on that Golden Boy card. Just real quick, also you had Yukasa Valle versus Marlon Esparza on this thing here, where Yukasa Valle ended up winning by split decision there in the flyweight division, right? So Valle is there as far as like getting her third consecutive win, from falling short against Tanisha Estrada in March of last year, pretty much a year ago. Actually, it was a year to the date from that time last year against Tanisha Estrada there for those minimum weight titles, and then here going up against Marlon Esparza there to win by split decision. So another close bout there for Yukasa Valle, and she's like there is at least rated by some as a top rated fighter there within that division, the minimum weight division. But you got to see like who else is going to be out there for Yukasa Valle to face here. I don't know, because a lot of these, I'm gonna be real with y'all. A lot of these names, I don't know. And I'm looking at I'm looking at the rec. I'm looking at box rec, and I'm like, this is. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what other fight could be a good bout there for Yukasa Valle. I don't know. Maybe it'd be Sarah Borman or something like that. I mean, I may check with that, but outside of that, who knows? Borman is supposed to defend her title. It looks like scheduled for April 26th. So after that, we'll see if maybe they consider to have a unification that way between those two. But outside of that, I don't know what other fight could be available there for Yukasa Valle. So I mean, we'll see. But those, mainly the three bouts that kind of like stood out there for that Golden Boy card, with of course William Zepeda getting a win over Tevin Farmer, Oscar Collazo getting a KO over Edwin Cano Hernandez, and Yukasa Valle with a split decision win over Marlon Esparza. All right, so that's that particular fight card. Now you have the other fight card that happened later, well, pretty much around that time, right? Over in Las Vegas, you have the rematch between Mikaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan. Now, the thing about it was that last bout that they had, I pretty much like put it as the fight of the year, women's fight of the year. Yeah, I know you had the whole thing there with, the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano that was at the AT&T Stadium. But that particular rematch, to me, it wasn't like the first fight, and it was like a lot sloppier. I'm sorry, the whole thing with the head clashes and all that, it wasn't like as refined, or at least a good back and forth like that first bout that we saw there between Mikaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan that was at the theater at Madison Square Garden last year. So that's why I pretty much had that be the fight of the year instead of the Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch. And now fast forward here for the main event there on the 29th in the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, there with Mikaela Mayer now defending the WBO welterweight title there against Sandy Ryan as she took the belt there from Sandy Ryan last September. I kind of like had that as like that particular bout is like a big bout there for Mikaela Mayer because she had the losses to Alicia Baumgartner, to Natasha Jonas, and both of those were only two losses in her pro career, and they were both by split decision. So it was more about, okay, is she gonna have this opportunity to win in a big or high profile bout within the division? And having a bout there against Sandy Ryan, at least the first bout, she was able to get a majority decision win there. Yes, we all know about the one of the backstories there for that first bout as they had the thing there for Sandy Ryan getting hit with paint coming out of the hotel. So it severely delayed her arrival there at Madison Square Garden for that bout that took place last September. But this time around, didn't have all of that. Okay, didn't have all of that. It was more about, okay, is she going to be focused and ready to go up against Mikaela Mayer here for the rematch and win back that world title that she had? Well, the first bout was really a good little scrap. The second one, it was more about Mikaela Mayer like really pushing in the second half of the fight to really like stand out against Sandy Ryan. And so you had Mikaela Mayer winning by unanimous decision this time. And the scores were pretty much like wide with two judges having it 7 rounds to 3 and one judge having it 8 rounds to 2 in favor of Mikaela Mayer. And so she is now 21-2 and has that first defense of that WBO welterweight titles there over Sandy Ryan this time around. And so now Sandy Ryan is now with a record of 7 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. So the thing with Sandy, I mean, she's only had like one split decision loss, 1 majority decision loss, and now this is a unanimous decision loss. So she's kind of like been there as far as like really contending for these top belts there in the welterweight division. She had the bout against Jessica McCaskill back in 2023, where a number of people felt like she won that bout against Jessica McCaskill, but it ended up being a split draw there in Orlando. But I mean, hey, sometimes that's how it be with some of these decisions. You feel me? So the thing with Sandy Ryan is like now, okay, how is she going to deal with this particular loss? And I know that there's been some comments in reference to the second story about this particular bout, as the trainer for Sandy Ryan is Kay Karoma. And yes, Kay Karoma is the former trainer for Mikaela Mayer. And the other thing is, whether it's from recent times, or from back, probably about the past few months, past few years, or something like that, there's been a few folks that have their thoughts about Kate Karoma as a trainer. And I mean, it ain't, all too hot. I know, we have something there where we talk about traders of the year. We talk about, Brian Bomac McIntyre, or, we talk about Eddie Reynoso, or we talk about Derrick James, or we talk about, of course, Coach Ronnie Shields, or Coach Calvin Ford, or Lamont Roach Sr. Here that's coming up here for the masses to really notice what Lamont Roach Sr. has been doing. But Kay Karoma, I mean, I don't know what to make of it, because you had this thing here with the last bout that took place, and then now you have this, and Kay Karoma leading into this fight was very vocal about what's been going down and what's been happening, and like I said, from the first bout, had some accusations, so to speak, there in reference to what happened with Sandy Ryan before she reached the theater at Madison Square Garden last September. But yeah, this time around, really didn't matter much there. At least for Mikaela Mayer, she proved that she was at least a better fighter here in this particular instance. So now she ends up getting that unanimous decision win there for the WBO welterweight title there. So she is looking to see if she could you know get to the, I would say, the top part of the welterweight division, or at least show that she's the top fighter there in the welterweight division. Now, we had recently another bout there that involved the other titles with Natasha Jonas versus Lauren Price. And, well, Lauren Price ended up winning that bout there by unanimous decision, scoring a shutout decision, or at least a shutout card, one of the judges' scorecards back in March 7th. So, um, hey, this pretty much like lines up for both of those fighters to fight for those undisputed welterweight titles. They pretty much fought around the same time, or at least in the same month. That means they can, get recovered, or at least we might see if they can, because the thing there with Mikaela Mayer, suffering a cut, maybe that could, delay things a little bit for her recovery, right? But at least you could say that, hey, maybe sometime late in the year or in the fall, you could potentially have an undisputed title fight between Lauren Price and Mikaela Mayer. That's on one side. And for Sandy Ryan, it looked like, there were some words about her potentially moving up in weight, maybe going up to super welterweight, but that remains to be seen. But like I said, with her like falling short a couple of times here to Mikaela Mayer, and you're also having, like I said, that close bout against Jessica McCaskill there in 2023. You have to see like how that's going to, fare for her later on down the line, like what fights could be lined up for her here in the near future. You know what I mean? I don't know, but that Jessica McCaskill fight, I'm telling you, man, like she really like outworked Jessica McCaskill in that bout, and who knows where she would probably be at if she was able to get that win in the decision instead of it being a split draw. So, that's something there to kind of like look at in that particular instance. So that's what I had in that bout, and then also you had there for the co-feature Brian Norman Jr. versus Derrick Cuevas. Ryan Norman Jr. defending his WBO welterweight title for the first time. Of course, he is the WBO interim champion. Was elevated to full champion there. After his bout that he had against Giovanni Santillán, right, where he scored a spectacular knockout victory in that one, right. But when they were setting up this particular bout, it was originally scheduled for November, but Brian Norman ended up getting injured, and so they had to push it back to yesterday. Now, Derrick Cuevas, it was coming in there as a contender. My thing is like, okay, he's a contender there in the division. Had him at like what, around a number 13. Number 13. I'm like, yeah, okay. But hey, hey, they had to find an opponent there. Shout out to Dre in the building there for the live chat, man. Big ups for y'all, man. Hey, if y'all listening live here on the YouTube and on Facebook or whatnot, you'll go ahead and hit the like button. It don't take much to hit the like button there to show your support. You know what I mean? But going back to this thing here with Brian Norman Jr., like I said, had an injury. Just sit him back here for a little bit because his fight was supposed to be in November as part of that card that was in Norfolk, Virginia. Of course, they had the headlining bout with Keyshawn Davis there versus Gustavo Lemos, but he got pushed back, and now it was here as a co-feature for the Mikaela Mayer Sandy Ryan rematch. And well, I mean, going into this thing, some people had their, little bit of skepticism in reference to Brian Norman Jr. and stuff like that. Yes, he did have a spectacular KO win over Giovanni Santillán, but that was after, hit the performance that happened with Jenilson Bocachica there, where, it was a fairly sloppy fight and ended up being a no contest because, both fighters got cut, severely in that, and they just, ended up, waving that bout off. Good thing they didn't do that for Tim Tszyu versus Sebastian Fedora though, because that ended up being a classic bout. You know what I mean? But for that, they couldn't let that thing continue. So you had that thing there with Brian Norman. So people weren't necessarily sure like where Brian Norman was, right? But I don't know about y'all, but fight week, when they had the press conference and they had Brian Norman on there and they had Derrick Cuevas on there, and Derrick Cuevas, like, was having a little bit of issues, you know what I'm saying, as far as like, saying what he needed to say during that press conference. You know what I mean? When I saw that, I'm like, nah, man, this ain't going, this probably ain't gonna last long, and it didn't really last long, there, man. Like Dre said here in the live chat, yeah, it looked like Brian Norman's hands looked like the heel, and going by what some folks were saying in the camp, they said, hey, he was doing his thing in the camp, and it pretty much showed here in this bout against Derrick Cuevas, getting a third round TKO victory there over Derrick Cuevas for his first defense of that WBO welterweight title. He is now 27-0 with 21 of those wins by way of knockout. And for him, of course, he had the whole backstory about him potentially fighting Jerome Boutsinis in the unification last year. But I mean, for me, that was more about Brian Norman Jr. having at least one fight with that WBO title before getting right in the mix there against Ron Ennis. Like I don't like, for me, I'm not sure if he would have been like there for that bout or ready for that bout. And at least for me, I'm not really much of a fan of immediate, what I would say, immediate unification bouts. What I mean by that is at least build up the bout, with the world champions, like getting at least one or two bouts in before doing the unification, And with Brian Norman Jr., like was mentioned before, he was WBO interim champion. He was elevated to full champion. So it was like, okay, you're gonna go from being an interim champion, then being elevated to full champion, and then your first bout will be against Ron Boutsinis. Yeah, I'm not all too certain about that. And if I, reached out to a couple of folks within, the top rank side, I wouldn't be too confident if they would have said, hey, we'll go ahead and have you go out there. Yes, they do have, a percentage that they get for, those purses if it's a fight that's outside of, the top rank promotion. But yeah, I'm not sure if they would have really, advised for it. Of course, we have the actual like manager there for Brian Norman Jr. is Adrian Clark. So I mean, I could get some words from him as far as like how that went down. Because think about it is when you're manager advisor, you want what's best for your fighter, and your fighter will say something, and if you think that that's the route to go, then that's the route that they'll try to push for. But it could be something there where the promoter says, hey, you're gonna have to pump the brakes on that a little bit. So I don't know, that that might be something there that I might go for. So yeah, either I'll make a couple phone calls or send a few emails and things like that to see what kind of like went down in between that time for frame where you had the time where Brian Norman Jr. was elevated to WBO champion, and then from that point, what happened as far as like trying to get something done between him and Jerome Boutsinis, and instead having it be routed to fighting Derrick Cuevas at the time around that was scheduled for November at the time. So, that's a whole nother thing there. But with this actual bout taking place and with Brian Norman Jr. getting a win, getting a technical knockout over Derrick Cuevas, now, okay, we could have something there where you could have a unification. Yep, we do know what's happening here in a couple of weeks. The IBF and WBA welterweight titles are on the line with Boutsinis versus the Stanionis. After that bout, that winner should go up against Brian Norman Jr. They should be going up against Brian Norman Jr. As far as like Mario Barrios, the WBC welterweight champion, I don't know what they're going to do here with Mario Barrios at this point. I did talk with his trainer there, of course, shout out Coach Bob Santos. There was talking with him on Friday, and asked about the thing there with Mario Barrios, and it said that he's getting prepped to have about that's scheduled for the summer. Okay. So with that being said, yeah, I don't think that they're going to have it to the point where Barrios would face either one of those champions or any one of those champions here with Brian Norman or the winner of Boots Ennis and Iamana Sanionis. So if that's going to be the case there with Mario Barrios, then Brian Norman should be like, you know what? I should make a trip up to Atlantic City for April 12th and see who's going to come out as the winner between those two fighters and say, you know what? I want that action. Yeah, that should be it. Brian Norman Jr. Hey, somebody hit up Brian Norman Jr. or Brian Norman Sr. and say, hey, you know what? April 12th, y'all should make that trip over to Atlantic City and see what's going down between Boots Ennis and Iamana Sanionis and say, hey, you know what? Whoever the winner is, I want in. I want in. That would kind of like, boost up the welterweight division. I mean, like I was mentioning, at least for now, we have 4 different world champions. We're going to have one unification coming up here in a couple of weeks. And then after that, then we got to see what's up. Because for Brian Norman Jr. right now, yeah, I do know about who, kind of like stepped to him after the bout. Unless there is a good amount of money for him to go over to Japan, I don't think he should really go for that fight against Jin Sasaki next. Yep, I know Jin Sasaki, was kind of cordial a little bit and say, wait, hey, here I got this letter for you. Just saying here I am. I'm Jin Sasaki. I'm a contender. I'm up there. I'm up there in the ranks. Here in the welterweight division. I've been doing my thing. But I feel like it's about my time. It's about my time. I've been, having these, multiple stoppage victories. Had a string of stoppage victories. Up to the point of my last fight. But now I feel like I'm ready for world championship action. So Brian Norman, what's up? So I mean, hey, if they're looking like maybe they could set up a fight with Brian Norman over in Japan, and it would be maybe more money than facing one of these world champions here in the U.S. Then that's going to be pretty interesting there for Brian Norman Jr. So that is an option there for Brian Norman Jr. also. And the thing with Mario Barrios is, at least for me, he's a WBC champion. His last bout there was against Abel Ramos. Yeah, it did end up being a draw, but he also got a good amount of money to have that bout against Abel Ramos. Now the question is, okay, what is his worth, or what is his value here at this particular point? We'll see. Like I was mentioning there, Coach Bob Santos said that they're angling to have him have a bout here sometime in the summer, whether it's like late June or July or something like that. So we'll see how that goes there. But wanted more information on that as far as like what Coach Bob Santos said. Y'all can go into the Boxing Source YouTube channel. We had that interview still available on there. Think about if I put it on Rumble or something like that. I should put it on Rumble. I haven't been putting much content on Rumble like that. I've been slacking on that. So yeah, eventually I'll have it on Rumble as well. So y'all be on the lookout for that too. All right, cool. But as it was mentioned there with Brian Norman, having this win, getting a knockout, looks like he's 100%. He's there, 24 years old, and he's really confident there. 27-0, 21 of those wins by way of knockout. Hey, he's really up there as like one of those guys to watch out for in the welterweight division, or could be one of those guys to watch out for in the welterweight division. So I like to see how they kind of like direct his career from this point forward. Yeah, I'll see if I can follow up on that this week in reference to Brian Norman Jr. I'm gonna have a set of questions here for a few people around the little top rank thing or whatnot, and see what they say about what they thought in reference to Brian Norman Jr. and his performance against Derrick Cuevas and what that could mean here later on down the line. Also, you had there on this top rank card Bruce Carrington getting a stoppage victory over Enrique Vivas, and yeah, after that he's like, yo, he's like, man, it's time. It is time for him to go ahead and fight for a world title. Yes, this was for the, as they say, the NABF featherweight title and the WBO Intercontinental featherweight title there for Bruce Carrington. But Bruce Carrington is like rated at number one, at least right now, in the WBO and number one in the WBC. And he said multiple times over that he is ready to fight for a world title, particularly for the WBC. And Bruce Carrington was in attendance for the bout between Stephen Fulton Jr. and Brandon Figueroa that was for the WBC featherweight title, with Stephen Fulton getting a clear decision victory over Brandon Figueroa Jr. So you could see that Bruce Carrington could angle for a bout between him and Stephen Fulton Jr. But looks like, according to a rumor report there from Brunch Boxing, we could have Stephen Fulton not necessarily defending that WBC featherweight title. That he could go up in weight and fight for the WBC super featherweight title, which is currently held by O'Shaquie Foster. Now, I did make a post about this on the Boxing Source Twitter page, or X, or whatever you want to call it, that soon after this rumor report was released on Brunch Boxing on Saturday morning, there were some posts from Stephen Fulton and O'Shaquie Foster on Saturday evening. So it looks like there might be a couple of seeds that have been planted on the ground in reference to that particular fight. And you got to see if it, grows up to, be like a giant redwood tree, or just like a little, I don't know, maybe a weed or something. We'll figure it out here over the next few days or whatnot. But that could be an interesting bout between a Stephen Fulton and an O'Shaquie Foster. It could be for that WBC super featherweight title. Now, the thing with O'Shaquie Foster, yes, he has been under top rank, had a few fights there under top rank. I mean, you've seen what happened, there with one of those offenses of the WBC belt, and another one where he ended up losing, to Rosen Conceição in one of the craziest decisions that I've ever seen. Okay. Then he ended up getting that belt back in the rematch. And then after that, it's like, it's whatever. I've said that, hey, they had him over there on top rank to see if they could have him in a unification bout, there. But they just never came to fruition. You have, of course, Emmanuel Navarrete as the WBO super featherweight champion. So I would have thought, hey, O'Shaquie Foster, Emmanuel Navarrete for WBC and WBO, but it just didn't quite, go that way. You know what I mean? So I guess now it's just about, seeing if this could happen for O'Shaquie Foster, because if you have Stephen Fulton there as the WBC featherweight champion and he moves up, he could pretty much be like the number one contender. Right now, the current number one contender for the WBC super featherweight title is Rocky Hernandez. Yep, that Rocky Hernandez that O'Shaquie Foster already fought and had to win by knockout, or else he would have lost that WBC belt. So I mean that's looking like the situation there, at least for 130, and with that being the case for 126, it could open up the opportunity there for Bruce Carrington to fight for a vacant WBC title. It could be against the next highest rated contender there, which is currently Carlos Castro. I gotta check here. At least it'll be another week or so before we have another rankings update for the WBC. So after that, we'll see if it's going to be Bruce Carrington and Carlos Castro there at number 1 and number 2 there in the WBC rankings, or it'll be something different. But that's what I had there with Bruce Carrington. Just going through most of this other stuff here, right? Tiger Johnson getting a knockout win over Kendo Castaneda. Emiliano Vargas said, pretty much got a highlight reel knockout there against Giovanni Gonzalez. Emmanuel Chance had his pro debut, getting a unanimous decision win over Miguel Guzman and Diedrich Kroekelum. That's the name, huh? Getting a technical knockout against Dion Ruvalcaba. Yeah, I probably butchered that name. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that name, bro. But yeah, that was the card that they had there over at the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas. Okay, so that's pretty much a quick rundown of most of the action that happened on Saturday night. We got more action coming up here on April 5th. We got like a heavyweight bout that's going to be on slate. I feel like it's going to be an interesting bout there in a heavyweight division. We got Richard Torres, right? He will be in the ring there going up against Guido Vianello in the heavyweight division. That's going to be an interesting bout there in the heavyweight division between Richard Torres and Guido Vianello, because I've been saying this off and on camera or whatever, but this should have been one of these fighters should have been the opponent there for Jared Anderson. But Jared Anderson, went for the money, That's cool. But they had a plan for him, and I guess he went away from the plan. And as a result, you seen what happened with him against oh my God. That's so bad there, man, with Martin Bacoli. That was just bad, but it happened. So now what we got coming up here for April 5th in Las Vegas, Top Rank. They got the daggum gym there in Las Vegas, but geez, you ain't even gonna have none of these fighters leaving Las Vegas, man. Like, come on. Anyway, Richard Torres Jr. versus Guido Vianello there in the heavyweight division. Guido Vianello, of course, has had his bout against Johnny Rice. That ended up being a technical knockout there, so caused a cut there. So he ended up having to stop his loss, and then had the bout against Efe Ajagba that was a split decision, which was a really close bout between those two. But the fight that stands out is Guido Vianello going over to Canada and stopping Arslanbek Makhmudov there in that one. Yeah, Makhmudov, had the one loss that he had against Agakavio in 2023, but then went back in the ring in May of 2024, got a KO win, but then went up here against Guido Vianello, and Guido just beat him up. He beat him up, man. He beat him up and ended up stopping Makhmudov. So he's coming off the high of that particular bout here, going up against Richard Torres, of course, who was there undefeated and is the he's the hope, as they say, for the heavyweight division. Yeah, yep. Shout out to my guy Smitty in the building here. You know what I'm saying? Yep, that's right. Like I said, I've been over to Top Rank Gym over there in Las Vegas multiple times. When they have their offices there in Las Vegas too. So having a number of these bouts, right there, they don't really have to go that far, as far as like booking venues or having workouts, public workouts. They could probably just have people go to the Top Rank Gym for these public workouts if they do schedule that, and then having the events right there really don't have to, do that much as far as like spending and stuff like that. So I mean, they're kind of going that route at least here for this particular fight card that's going to be at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. So we had Fontainebleau, now you have the Palms. All right, so bet. So now with Richard Torres, of course, now they're at 12-0. I ain't seeing him being like out there to be a contender of sorts. But the IBF does currently have Richard Torres at number 14. Okay. Now, Guido Vianello is, at least they say he's ranked at number 15 in the WBO. I have to confirm that. This is from, February's rankings. So I don't know if they still have him at number 15 there in the rankings for heavyweight, but that's something there that I could go ahead and check here, at least in the interwebs there real quick. You know what I mean? Let me see here. They had pretty much like updated it. And if they did, then maybe you'll see Richard Torres still there at number 15 or not. But at least at the time, that's what they're at least currently showing here, at least from the PDF. Yep, as of March 15th, yep, they still have Will Vianello there at number 15 in the rankings. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Come on, y'all. Come on, man. I don't know what this person talking about, man. I don't know what this person talking about. Listen, I'll just say this, at least for right now, it's Dr. Umar around here. All right, that's what I'm gonna say. All right, now moving on. Like I was talking about with Guido Vianello, number 15 in the WBO, right? You got Richard Torres Jr. now at number 14 in the IBF. So guess the winner will, kind of like get a couple of notches up there in the heavyweight rankings. But what it could, eventually lead to, who knows? But this is like, a matchup of two fighters there within the heavyweight division, within the top rank, because they got a few heavyweights out there for top rank that they work with or are kind of like partner with or whatnot, and these are two of them, right? So this could be like one of these potential matchups where it's like the winner will kind of like set themselves up to what I would say couldn't be something like an equivalent to a mid-card matchup, but something to kind of like have them be almost to the level of where Efe Ajagba is right now. Because Efe Ajagba, of course, has his upcoming bout with Martin Bakole, right? That's going to be in May, all right? That's going to be there on May 3rd over in Riyadh. But, outside of that, you would have the next notch down, and these two fighters would pretty much be on that next notch down. According to like BoxRec and what they have for ratings, not like rankings, but ratings as far as like their point system, they have, Richard Torres and Guido Vianello within that top 25. Now, are they top 25 heavyweights? That remains to be seen, at least from right now. I probably, if I, kind of like thought about it, if it, took something, I would probably see if there's 25 heavyweights that I could rate above these two. But it might take some work once you get to, number, 16 and 17, you know what I mean? I would probably have to, look at a few fighters to see if they'd be around the, but still, this is something that could really build the winner to get a little bit closer to, hey, you know what? Maybe I could work myself to a world title shot. I would say around 2026, late 2026, because at least we see right now what the current situation is with heavyweight titles. You have Alexander Usyk with 3 of those titles, and Daniel Dubois with the IBF title. And with Alexander Usyk, looks like he's ready to gear himself for one fight here for this year, and then after this one fight, 2026. I'm not too confident that Alexander Usyk would be fighting in 2026. So this one might be a one and done for Alexander Usyk. And if that's the case, all of those belts would be, pretty much vacated up for grabs for anybody to go and get. So I say with this particular bout here with Richard Choice and Guido Vianello, definitely a good amount of reward here for the winner of that particular bout. You're also going to have Abdullah Mason there against Carlos Ornelas. Abdullah Mason, with Ornelas being a replacement opponent there because he was supposed to be fighting Giovanni Cabrera, and Cabrera, got scratched from the bout. Hey, Abdullah Mason, listen, you know who he is. He's the prospect of the year from last year. He was part of the round of the year last year. You know what I mean? With Johan Vasquez, that was at the Scope Arena in Norfolk. That round one was absolutely crazy. He had his last bout on February 14th, Abdullah Mason, and executed very well there against Manuel James, leading into a TKO victory there. So Carlos Ornelas, I'm sorry, it ain't gonna look good for him. It ain't gonna look good for him. All right. You're also gonna have, and I would say it's a pretty interesting bout, Jihad Tucker versus Troy Williamson. Jihad Tucker there with record of 13 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. You have Troy Williamson there at 20 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. He did lose his last 2 bouts to Yarko and to Ismail Davis. So this is really a make or break for him, man. Otherwise, he's going to be out of the picture, out of the paint or whatnot for that particular division. And for Jihad Tucker, Jihad Tucker is someone that for those that may not have known there while he was with been with Top Rank, he was one guy that wanted to have a fight with Xander Zayas around that 154-pound division at the time. But by the end of 2023, we pretty much kind of like got too big for the division, and that like kind of like knocks out anything that he could have, you know what I mean, for a potential bout between him and Zayas. So they kind of like had him face some real tough opponents there back to back, but he was able to get through those bouts. Had his last bout in November over in Verona, got a TKO victory in that one. Now he's up here against Troy Williamson, and this looks like they're really really putting. It's like they're putting my guy Jihad Tucker through the test, man. Yeah, it's crazy, with some of the fights that he's had on there. So you have that. There's like a few other bouts that's going to be part of that card as well. But that's pretty much like rounding out what's going to be happening there with Top Rank. We should have another fight card that's on there for Pro Box. I'm going to see if I could get the specifics on that, right? Because we had some recent news in reference to that fight card, right? So this is going to be at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. I could have, seen if I can make the drive up, but nah. All right. Nicholas Foz was scheduled to be in the main event, but he suffered an injury. So he is scratched from that bout. And that fight that he was supposed to have, that's out the picture. So now the main event is Ricardo Salas versus Kent Cruz. Okay, that's going to be the main event. You're also going to have McQuan Williams there versus Antonio Moran. That's going to be interesting there, at least for McQuan Williams, because I feel like McQuan Williams is a fairly impressive fighter there that's coming up in the ranks. And you're going to have Gio Lopez versus Rene Alvarado. Wait a minute. It's the same Gio Lopez that was supposed to be on that TGB Promotions or PBC card, right? Uh-oh. Ooh, that's interesting right there. That's really interesting right there. Because man, but I was looking forward to Nicholas Flores versus Gabriel Maestre as the main event. That would have been something to see if you would have had that, right? But now it's Ricardo Salas versus Kent Cruz. And that'll be in the welterweight division. Yes, Kent Cruz did compete in the 140-pound division or whatnot. But remember, Kent Cruz had the bout against Gary Antoine Russell, and Kent Cruz was like, around like 143. And they said, you know what? Nah, we gonna have that bout anyway. And it ended up being a stoppage victory, early stoppage victory for Gary Antoine Russell at the MGM National Harbor there a few years back. But yeah, now you got Kent Cruz now competing in the welterweight division, going up against Ricardo Salas. Now I gotta see about this thing here with Gio Lopez though, because that one, you know, I was certain that Gio Lopez was supposed to be on that PBC card. That was for March 1st. But yeah, I guess it didn't happen there, man. You know what I mean? Now he's going up against Rene Alvarado there at the 2300 arena. That's the PBC card, PBC card, the Pro Box card. All right, that's the Pro Box card that is coming up at the 2300 arena in Philadelphia, and of course they have another Pro Box card April 12th at Maryland Live. All right, that's going to be promoted by No Excuse Promotions, of course. So we have that, of course, with Short Dog Jordan White there in the main event. You're also going to have Steven Shaw there in the co-feature, and a number of fighters there from the Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, whatnot, that are going to be featured on that card on April 12th. So it's been like, man, it's almost been like back to back to back there for Pro Box. But, they had something there on March 8th, then March 22nd. I got this thing on April 5th, and then they got the card there on April 12th. And also, you're going to have Erickson Lubin versus Ardrell Holmes on May 10th there. So it's going to be something, a lot of action there for Pro Box TV. So definitely got to look forward to that. And yes, he did have the announcement there for Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder will be getting back in the ring there. He will be fighting in Wichita, Kansas. Yep, will be fighting in Wichita, Kansas there in his comeback bout. So, I mean, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that here in the coming weeks or whatnot. So, we'll see how he shapes up, because we've had past conversations about that fight once it was recently announced, and a former world champion potentially could try to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I could get involved, so to speak, there with Deontay Wilder in this next bout that he has coming up. So that's what they got there on that front. But that's mainly it. I was thinking that, I was saying about the thing there with the phone lines, man. But I'm like, right now, I've had like I said, back to back to back, interviews on Friday. Had the midweek report on Wednesday. You know what I mean? And all of those interviews there, that was a lot. And then you'll hear with this, of course, a Boxing Source podcast. So having this within about an hour's time, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm pretty much like good on that, at least for me right now. So we're gonna get back at it, like I said, with a midweek report on Wednesday. Coming up on Wednesday, and then we're gonna look forward to the fight cards or the fights that are going to happen on Saturday. And then we're going to summarize all of that and react to all of that on Sunday, April 6th. Okay. And yeah, we're going to also try to have a setup for another edition of the DMV Boxing Network show. We're going to have it, at least right now, is scheduled to be Friday, April 11th. So, we're going to see how that could be arranged to have it Friday, April 11th. And in the meantime, you'll hear for at least the Boxing Source YouTube channel. See if I set up a couple of conversations with a number of fighters that will be involved on that fight card for April 12th. And see also if I could arrange for a couple of other interviews that I had to reschedule from, I guess, earlier this month. So, just be on the lookout here on the Boxing Source, and you'll be able to see more boxing content for y'all. But that's why I got here for this edition of the Boxing Source podcast. If you can, if you're listening live, you hit the like button. If you're listening through Spotify or iHeartRadio or Amazon Podcasts or whatever it is, you'll just show support, hitting the like button or hitting the heart or whatever they got for those apps. That would be really appreciated here on the Boxing Source. And so, with that being said, y'all, I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.